Today's video, we're going to talk about Facebook ads value rules. Here's how to make 100% higher ROI on your existing campaigns that you're running today simply by using these value rules. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly what these rules are in detail in this video, but in short, it's taking the customers that you get, understanding that they're more or less worth more or less over the long run in your business, and then tying a specific value to those customers based upon what you already can predict they'll be worth to you in the future as well, so that you're actually optimizing for the big whale customers, and the customers that are smaller, you actually start weaning them out of the system. So you just start getting better and better and better customers over time. Now, in order to do this, you have to get access to the data. You got to take your customer list, and you got to know how to take your customers out of it and put them into separate categories that I'm going to show you how to do on this video, so that you can add these so-called value rules to your Facebook ad account, which is a brand new feature, by the way, and so you can end up making twice as much from the ad spend you already have today, which is fantastic because everybody wants to make more from the same ad spend. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly not only how this works, but also exactly how to do it. And then exactly how much money you can make doing this. I'll have a case study for you. If you stay to the end of the video, I'll be sharing how this worked for our own client and an industry that you will understand and respect as well. So with that said, getting into it. So first of all, for businesses that have highly variable customers, as we call it in the business world, that is AKA lifetime value, the value rules that Facebook has now opened up for us to have will ensure the highest ROAS, or return on investment of ad spend, that you can get. Specifically, that is, and especially when you try to scale your campaigns, because of course the whole point of running ads is to scale your company. As you scale, don't you want to scale in the places that are making you more successful versus less? That is, customers that are allowing you to make more margin on what you're selling versus less, weeding out the pain in the ass customers that don't make you much money at all. Well, of course, you can only do this if you actually tell Facebook how to optimize your ads. Specifically, these customers are what I want, these are the customers I don't. And you do that by valuing each customer based upon the presumed lifetime value. And I want to talk about how you do this here. So with that said, what you do is you take your customer list that you have today, literally take your e-commerce site or your CRM, export all your customer data out of it. Then you take it to a company or data broker like Axicom, which will tell you of the people that are on your customer list, what traits they have. Axicom specifically is a company that I've worked with quite a bit. They actually track 40,000 individual user traits. Will tell you a lot more than just how old somebody is on average that you deal with, or what their gender is, but a bunch of other things. And I've talked about that, how to use that information on other videos to make a ton of money with Facebook ads in specific. But at least when we're talking about value rules, where Facebook will only let you tell them what a customer is worth that you want to optimize for on the levels of age, gender, location, and device, bottom line, they'll still give you this information as well. With Axicom, you're saving time, and you're spending a little money to save the time. You give them your customer list of the customers you have. Here's the one in the middle, here's who spends the least, and here's the average age demographic for each one, and break it out in terms of bracket, 18 to 24, 24 to 30, and so on and so forth. So you actually can see what is the average lifetime value of a customer for each age of customer that you have. So, of course, in order to do this, you got to not only export from your customer management system or website backend the lifetime value of each customer you're dealing with, but also their email address or their cell phone number. Technically, the best is both to have the most data sent to Axicom, but even just their email address will work. And so you send them the email address of all these customers and how much they've spent with you over time, if you have it, and they'll send back to you by age bracket, by gender, also by location, who's spending what, by category there. Then you have the data that you need to use these so-called value rules to your advantage and really, really exploit it. Because most of the people doing this, they're just guesstimating they kind of have a general feel of who buys from them and who doesn't, who spends a lot, who doesn't. But what I'm telling you here is it's 100% worth it to spend this money and not just kind of know and do this by gut feel, but actually getting the hard, raw data on who spends what, because it'll make all the difference in your results using value rules. The other way that you can get data on your customers, by the way, to do this is just to run your own analysis. Of course, you could take your customer list and you could take the first name and say, if it's Mary, we're going to assume it's female. If this is Steve, we're going to assume this person's male. You could technically go on to like Facebook and find these customers there and actually see how old they look. Of course, their gender, where they're located. You can do this work manually. And my opinion is this is a complete waste of time. That's what data broker and data expansion companies are for. You give them your email address list and they just tell you all these traits on your customers. And then you take that raw data and then you put it and you sift and sort through it. And then you come up with a definitive plan that where if a person is female at 18, you have this value adjustment. If they're female at 24, you have this adjustment, and so on and so forth. Facebook actually allows you to tell them what a customer is worth based upon 2 different dimensions. So you literally can say, if a person's this age and this gender, we want to value this person at, our average customer's normally worth times 20%. This gender and this location, negative 40% in terms of the sales that come through. We want to discount that by 40% because we want to actually optimize less for those type of customers over time itself. So what you're doing is essentially supplementing the conversion data that you already got coming into your Facebook account with additional data that will essentially guide the account and campaigns you have in the general direction of what's going to produce more overall revenue for your company, given that each one of these customers are going to be predicted or presumed to spend a lot more money with you, a little bit more money with you, or basically no more money with you in general on subsequent purchases. So this will actually make everybody more money. You got to have customers that normally buy again, and ideally buy not just like on average a 0.3, 30% of your customers buy it again, but where at least half of your customers or more buy it more than once. But even if they do on average only buy 0.3, which is a typical number that I see and come across at our advertising firm, that 0.3 matters a lot because of that, on average, 30% of the customers who buy again, there's customers that buy an average of 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, 50 times. And you want to be able to study what are the traits that the person has that normally buys more than 20 times versus somebody who buys once. That's what these value rules are actually about. And if you don't utilize the data, well, you're simply going to end up with less quality customers over time. And frankly, you can't scale as much because that's really what it's about. When the rubber meets the road, when you're trying to scale your business by scaling your ad spend and finding out, okay, I need $5 in sales revenue for every dollar in ad spend. And if I have that, I can spend an unlimited amount. Well, you're only going to do that so fast when you're optimizing for customers all the same way. That is, you're treating everybody you get same exact way versus understanding where basically 80% of your revenue is coming from and getting the ad system to optimize where that 80% of the revenue is coming from, which 20% of your demographics are where 80% of the revenue is going to come from. Ultimately, that's how it typically ends up. That 80-20 rule applies here as it does in most markets. You only can find that out if you do this and spend the money or time to actually do the research on your market. But if you're in a business where there's repeat sales, you are absolutely, high if you do not want to do this because it's going to matter so much with your results. I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a second. The other way, by the way, to get data on your customers as to figure out what they're worth over their lifespan is to do a lifetime value tracker on your website. There's plenty of, like you have Shopify. With Shopify, you can add a lifetime value tool app to your store, and it'll tell you people who buy more than once, what they're buying. If you generate leads and those leads turn into a sale, you can import the sales that they normally generate. You can report the sales that is as a result of those leads to your Facebook account using something called offline conversion tracking. When you know somebody who buys that has this trait over another trait, you could send a modified amount of revenue to the ad platform based upon, the same kind of concept. Except instead of Facebook automatically adding it on their end with these so-called value rules, you're doing it on your end. So regardless of the situation, if you're running Facebook ads, you should be updating the actual conversion value based upon that person's likelihood to be a good customer versus somebody who's not as likely to be a good customer. If you want to scale your ads faster, ultimately, you're trying to scale your sales at, let's say, a 5-to-1 sales to ad spend ratio or a 10-to-1. You're going to scale it twice as fast, optimizing for better customers than you are going to be optimizing for all customers, no matter what they are or who they are. Particularly, by the way, if you're in a market where competitors are using value rules, they're going to start optimizing for the better people that are more likely to turn into long-term business. Then, therefore, the cheaper customers are going to come from the people who are less likely to do long-term business. So you're effectively going to be left going after the crappier customers, and you're going to be building your business off the back of these crappier customers. You're going to scale much slower than you would otherwise, with your competitor now scaling much, much faster, because you're going to undervalue the best customers so they get them at a discount, and you're going to overvalue the shittiest customers and paying more for them. So that's why you want to do this and why this is so important. In terms of implementation, what you want to essentially do, I would recommend, is you have a value rule for every age combination and gender combination that there is. Then I would have a combination for age and location itself, given that you can only do 2 of these in combination itself. And when I say location, of course, we're talking on a national campaign at a state level, or if we're talking about international, it could be at a country level. Then you have the device in there, which the device, I don't really use that. I mean, there are some niche markets, I'm sure, where customers that come in on an iOS device versus an Android, they're going to be worth substantially more. And you can figure that out ultimately using a specialized tool on your website to track customers and what device they come in on, put it into a log, and then ultimately when that customer comes through, you basically combine your data, and then effectively you're able to, one way or another, see the lifetime value of a customer that comes in from an iOS versus Android. In my mind, there's not really too much practical application of that, so I wouldn't necessarily worry about that too much. I'd just worry about age, gender, or location. And then even within that, location is not going to matter nearly as much as the age and the gender will. The age and the gender are the main factors, particularly as younger people are typically more broke than older people's. And older people typically, on average, statistically, are more loyal in terms of customers. We've seen this across many different market segments. This is generally the case. With that, you want to spend more money on people that are older versus younger for both of those reasons. That said, it varies a lot based upon whether the person's old and female versus old and male, depending on what you're selling, obviously. I will, I guess, get into all the micro details there. I mean, we can talk about all day about different markets and where I've seen this in terms of the data and how it trends and where it trends. If you're, for instance, selling gifts, of course, selling them to males is much more profitable because it's less competitive overall and less indecisive versus females that are more, they browse a lot. So whereas it seems like a lot of females for clothing that they buy more of it, they do, but they browse a lot more, so the conversion rates are less for a campaign on Facebook, whereas you could run an ad to males during and before certain times of the year where they're buying presents and end up with a lot higher ROI itself. On the flip side, though, in terms of lifetime value, they're not buying as much. So the female would actually be much better. If you're not looking at what the value of a customer is, then you're not going to be optimized. And this is why you're looking at both ends of the things. You're not looking at what a customer costs to acquire, but what's the value, presumed value of the customer on the back end, essentially bidding appropriately for a click or an eyeball based upon what that eyeball is actually worth to your business, the potential future lifetime value of that customer to your business. In order to utilize this data and set yourself up to win here, all you need to do is figure out what your average lifetime value of a customer is in your business itself, and you put this in this formula, and then you put how much that grouping is to your business. So let's say you find out after getting your data from your store and then going to Axicom that 18 to 24 female generates on average 30% more lifetime value of a customer than put your average plus 30% down here times 100. That'll tell you what you want to, in terms of your so-called bid adjustment for your value rule, you want to assign the female 18 to 24 versus, the rest of everybody else, if that makes sense. So for example, if female 18 to 24 had produced a $700 average lifetime value of a customer versus your overall between all ages and genders was an average of $400 lifetime value, then you would divide the 700 by 400 times 100, and you would get a 57%, they call it value adjustment, I call it bid adjustment, because 57% adjustment on the female 18 to 24 moving on. That's how the formula works and how the math works here. So it's actually really straightforward. Once you can actually get the lifetime value data out of your customer's relationship management system, you have it, then it's really easy to find out what your value adjustment should be. And what you'll see, like magic, once this is done, the system, it won't work all at once, but over time, you'll get more and more and more and more with the same exact ad budget you had before, customers that are in the category of being higher payers on average, higher lifetime value than you had before. So literally speaking, we did this in the female clothing space, and that is exactly what happened. We were able to figure out exactly what a customer is with for each age and gender demographic. We didn't get into location in this particular case, but we went ahead and added that value adjustment. And ever since we've started doing this, just a couple months ago, already the customers are starting to skew more and more of the general category that works the best. Middle-aged females, in terms of them being more valuable to our company lifetime value-wise, not cost per conversion-wise. So we are willing to pay more for a conversion, and this compensates for it. Because we're adding a value adjustment to what we're doing, now we're getting a lot more in that sweet spot. And as a result of that, the revenue is not there yet, but the revenue will come through. We already know it will come through because we already know statistically that what that person's likely to spend over time versus a male that's middle-aged or a male that's old or what have you, if you will. And that's what we got. So this is a relatively new feature. So I don't have any long-term case studies where I can tell you over the lifespan of 2 years how well this feature works. It actually just came out this year. Data is good. And it's just like Google has a similar feature. And I talk about all the time on this channel about offline conversion tracking, how you're really getting better results with Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever you're running. It's really just down to how much data can you get into your ad account to train the algorithm on how to get your results, and what's the quality of that data. The better quality data and the more of it percentage-wise you're able to capture, the better the results are going to be. This is also a part of it, that is figuring out what your customers are worth and how to actually tell the system in an indirect way what the person spent over time, because you can't necessarily do that because there's caps on how long you can upload the conversion revenue data for. So in this case, you're just predicting the revenue and then you're piping it in that way. It's kind of like, when you're generating leads and the lead will often not close right away. What you do is you give the system the presumed contract value that will close if it closes as a second runner-up thing you can do. Whereas in this case, we're just assuming the person's going to spend X, Y, and Z. So we're going to put that as the conversion value, not the actual conversion value that we got. Anyway, this is going to allow you to do what you normally would do with offline conversion tracking, to upload a value that could be modified, take the sales that you got, plus some presumed future revenue that they'll generate, and then have the system optimized for the bigger customers accordingly. This does it on Facebook's side, and it's done through so-called value rules. Before I talk about some numbers here in terms of what I've seen also in terms of our clients' results, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you absolutely should. I have the best information on how to make money with ads on this channel for you for free from somebody who spends 40 hours a week just doing ad testing and strategy at our firm. That's my sole job. The information you typically find online about how to run ads, it's given to you by people who just are making money off of selling courses or making money off of advertising. It's not by practitioners, and therefore the information's not valid. You're getting information from a real practitioner here. Furthermore, I've got a great blog on my site. If you haven't checked that out yet, you should. You can find that at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has actual written, documented lists of strategies that I write and that I reveal there. So if you like the channel, you should check the blog out as well. If you have any questions about anything I'm covering here, you can leave me a comment below. I get back to everybody who leaves me a question here, or marketing related question. I answer any questions that you really have. I'm more than happy to do that to give back to the community. You can also find me and reach me through my Discord group that I have opened up. You can find a link to that Discord group in the description of this video. Also, you can reach out to me through my site at guaranteedppc.com. If you reach out to me, you can set up a private coaching or consulting call. I also can offer you an estimate of results if I were to personally do your strategy and do all your ads for you, which is our bread and butter service at our firm, of which we do not charge our clients management fees until we can get them a certain minimum lift in their profitability up front in excess of the management fee that we would charge. We're the only agency out there that does anything like this, which should tell you something about the quality of the information on this particular channel, and then also what we do at our firm as well in terms of our done-for-you services. Beyond that, I also have ad templates available. If you are in a market that we've already been in, instead of doing all the heavy lifting that we had to do to get results that we did in your market in another city or country that you may be in, if we've already done work in your niche space already, whether you're a plumber or toner salesman or whatever, you can literally buy from us the winning ads, landing pages, campaign templates, all of it that work for your niche market, and then just copy paste those into your ad account, get the same results we did. I can tell you the results you would get with it up front. Yeah, at the very least, you should find out what we have, because it can save you a ton of time and money figuring out everything we had. And I've worked in hundreds of niche markets, so I've got lots of templates. So if you're interested in that, you can also let me know. guaranteedppc.com is where you can reach me about that. As we come back to the case study, so I mentioned that we did this for a female clothing brand, and I don't have any hard data there. We started doing it there. As soon as this feature came out, I was like, fantastic. This is the type of thing that's going to really move the needle on some of these older campaigns that we've been running for a while. They are kind of running out of ideas for. I love Google more because there's so more extra things you can do there. You know, levers you can pull, make more money this way and that way. With Facebook, it's kind of like once you kind of got the best creative figured out, there's not too much other shit you can do to make your ads more profitable. There, of course, is, but it's not, the list isn't nearly as long. A lot of it just comes down to good fundamentals at the end of the day. Anyway, with that said, the tracking is where you really can have an edge, a massive edge in your market. And we also are in the day spa space. We started to implement this strategy there a couple months ago when we noticed this came out, and we got it implemented as well. In that particular market, we get feedback quicker. Somebody comes in for a visit, a person can easily come back the next month or even, a week or 2 weeks from now from the time that they came in. We already saw, because we track very heavily the amount of people coming into the store, and we track people when they come in, they book in, and the book in, we know who they are, who's coming in, how many people we're getting coming in from our Facebook campaign. We already see an uptick in the amount of actual revenue attributed from and because of Facebook having implemented these value rules, of which in that particular market is similar to the female clothing market. We got middle-aged females that are more profitable in general than other demographics by far, by and large, in general there. Again, location, device, these can be useful. For me, they're minor factors. There's some markets where location will be more important, but it's not real important in general, especially since you can do income targeting, and income targeting really helps. That is location targeting in effect. I've already saw a 20+% increase in the revenue attributed from Facebook just in the 60 days roughly that we've implemented this. And I guarantee you, if I made this an update, and I may come back with an update here in a year from now, just saying how much more increase we got. Because when you start doing even things like offline conversion tracking, where you take leads, you find out how much people are spending, you put it back into the ad account, which in and itself, improves your results a lot. But your real results don't come until you've racked up hundreds, if not thousands, of conversions to train the algorithm more. So in this particular case, we got people that can actually book through their online system. In the spa space, you can book a reservation online. We're already seeing from those same customers more revenue come as a result of these customers and their subsequent visits already, just because we added or implemented the simple value rules to our Facebook campaign / meta campaign. So anyway, that's some small data point of which in a year from now, I would almost guarantee this is going to be up to 50 to 100% in terms of increase in revenue from or as attributed from Facebook ads in this particular market, which is why I said 100% higher ROI, because I already know just from what I know about tracking and offline conversion tracking, and also Google Ads has their own version of this, that the amount of revenue that you're going to get is just going to keep going up and up and up. And if you're in a market like, the spa business, you're going to see, which relies on people coming in more than once heavily, you're going to see this kind of a lift in ROI guaranteed in my mind. I've enough experience, been around long enough. I can tell you this will be the case. So it's a newer feature. I'm sorry I can't give you more robust data than this. That's close to as good as it gets, for at least at this stage. And for that matter, it's as close as ironclad as it gets, because I've been doing this for 20 years now, and I understand how tracking data, the more better tracking data you have, the better results you get. They're correlated 1-to-1. So this is just a way to get better tracking data, and therefore have a major edge on your competition as a result. I'm going to wrap it up with this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you want to see another video, click here. It is one of my best ones.